TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
If you suspect any suspicious thing, report to the police.
Of course, there will always be penalties.
Issues at hand.
Well, we apologize for that glitch in time, but of course here we are with issues at hand. Edwin Austin Mukalazi is my name. And of course today we want to discuss something very, very pertinent, something at the heart of every, I won't generalize and say every Ugandan, but most of the Ugandans, especially people who are at the center of advocacy. Now we want to look at especially the management of the hiking cases of HIV/AIDS. Of course, we know that the government has a vision. This is the presidential vision that by 2030 there should be no more new infections. In other words, the government thinks that by 2030 we should only be managing the cases that are already there, but not the new cases. However, how is that going to be possible? Of course, we had a setback, especially when President Trump came in. And of course, he had to change a lot of things. Remember, some of the money or the funding was from the U.S. Under the U.S. aid. And so when this was reverted, it caused a lot of issues. And of course, we've seen very many NGOs struggling and others closing down. And of course, we've seen integration, especially in health facilities. And I mean, there is a lot that is happening. But can we still achieve the vision? Secondly, what can we do? Where does the hope lie? And of course, that is what we are going to discuss today. With us is Laura Angel Chakunzire, who is an advocacy officer from Uganet. It's a pleasure having you this morning.
Yeah, nice to meet you too this morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Now, we are discussing this, but maybe before, someone really want to understand what Uganet does, and then we shall relate it to what we want to discuss in the remaining minutes.
Yeah, to begin with, I will reintroduce myself. I'm Chakunze Laura Angel, and I work with Ugandan Network on Law, Ethics, HIV/AIDS. It's a legal entity like most people usually term it, but it's an organization, a non-government organization that has been in existence for the last 30 years. And we are glad and happy that we have impacted lives through social justice. So in a nutshell, Uganet provides social justice for people living with HIV mainly. But also, we look at other issues like gender-based violence. We look at 3 disease areas: TB, malaria, HIV. So over that time, we have been integrating in other areas. Also climate change. Basically, we do so much, but in line with social justice and ensuring that people have healthy lives and they receive justice, especially justice in line with health.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we now want to look at especially the young people because statistics show from the Uganda AIDS Commission that the numbers of the young people acquiring HIV is increasing. Yet we have a vision of 2030, and we are just a few years to get to that vision, and it brings a lot of questions whether we are still focused on achieving this, that by 2030 there will be no more new infections, and yet we see that the number of especially the young people is increasing. So as you, who is an advocacy officer, what is your comment on this?
It's absurd that by 2030 probably we should have achieved the 95 targets that were set by the UNAIDS. But while we continue to see these dimensions or these issues that keep coming up, we find ourselves in a moment where our hands are getting tied. First of all, we began with the COVID-19 experience where we were almost achieving our 95. Unfortunately, 95 means that 95 of the population should be tested. and knowing their HIV status. And 95% of the population that is tested and knowing their HIV status, when found positive, they should be on medication. And the 95 should be with a suppressed viral load. So yes, we saw that 95% of the people were testing. But along the way, we start to see that most people are not adhering well with the medication once, and others are even struggling to go and seek treatment. So we're having issues of people who have tested and they know they're actually HIV positive, but along the way they fear to go and seek treatment, and also those who have sought treatment, they are struggling with adherence.
Yeah.
So, and most of these ones are young people struggling with adherence. Most of them are in denial and failing to accept their HIV status. Now, those who are in denial and failing to accept the HIV status, we realize that they're the most ones that are actually spreading the new infections. Who is talking to them? Now, after the COVID-19, here we have another storm that hit us in January, beginning of this year, when a directive from Trump's administration came up, and it was about time that we and our government take charge of integrating services, of owning our services, as it was a wake-up call that donor funding is actually going down, and with time, donor funding will be no more in regards to HIV and AIDS. So what does this tell us? It was a real shock for us. We knew that, okay, donor funding could be ending like by 2030, as the goal says. But when Trump came in, that is a clear indicator that when a new leadership comes in, it means that they come with their new modalities of doing things, and you cannot stop that. What does that also call for? Are these laws also being adhered? Are these policies, are these agreements being adhered? So it is clear to us as a country that has been fully dependent on donor funding that we still have no place with donor funding. We have to fight and ensure that we are sustainable as a country.
And now that is where the question is. We've seen interventions like the ambassador, the UNAIDS ambassador, the Kabaka of Buganda,
yes,
who organizes annual runs, and the money is directed towards the fight against the spread of HIV/AIDS, but also other interventions. But where does the hope lie? Because even with this, I don't think this can outbeat the amount of money that was from the donors. So where does our hope lie as a country and as a generation?
Yeah, our hope lies the fact that we have accepted to integrate services, which most of the people living with HIV are struggling to adhere. When integration, actually when I want to call it the directive from Ministry of Health was passed immediately after the Trump's lockdown or stop work order and all that, we took it upon ourselves. Of course, as people living with HIV, forefronting advocacy, and other organizations had to task and ask Ministry of Health what next. Of course, the government, in line with Ministry of Health, had to come up with the integration of services. So it means that stand-alone hospitals or clinics for ARTS, or ART is the antiviral treatment for people living with HIV. The stand-alone clinics had to close. Most of them in various districts had to close, especially those that were fully funded by the U.S. government. They had to close. Some have not even woken up. A few have tried to wake up and rearrange and hand over properly to the government. Recently, I was doing a mentorship with some of the hospitals. I was actually working alongside Ministry of Health. I was called to work with a team with the Ministry of Health, and we did a few of these supervision in the different hospitals where integration is happening, and I particularly was doing it in Masaka region. So all those are efforts that ministry, through our advocacy, remember that, as watchdogs, ensuring that there is quality of services on the ground. We keep following up with Ministry of Health. Every case that we get on the ground in those health facilities that have taken on integration, especially the government facilities, we still have a few standalone clinics supported by, for example, Uganda Cares. We have a few by Baylor, but they are also phasing out slowly, as I already said. They are handing over slowly to the local government and then to fully Ministry of Health. So it is through Ministry of Health and local government, then to those the regional hospitals and health centers that we have. So there is still hope that the fact that Ministry of Health has taken responsibility of this and integrating services, what does it mean to people living with HIV? It is high time as people living with HIV learned that things are not going to be the same again. We're not going to be pampered anymore like we used to be pampered. A few of the services are going to stay. For example, I saw Ministry of Health is trying to adopt or to take in a few of their peers. I was happy recently when I went for a mentorship in Barra. I discovered that they are taking on a few of the peers. Most of the peers were dissolved off after this whole Trump thing because they were being supported. So what does this call? That people were not receiving counseling and guidance. The counselors had stopped working. We had the peer-to-peer models. Those expert clients at the clinics who were supporting their fellows to adhere well had stopped. But when we hear of such good news from Ministry of Health, taking on a few of the peers, though they have to be with a certain level of education. So we are seeing some light, and we need to encourage people out there that you don't need to lose hope. Ensure that you take your medicine well. That one is a no-go negotiation. Today I'm going to be very honest, they are not going to pamper people living with HIV, me inclusive. They are not going to pamper us. You either take that medicine well or you die. That's the new normal right now.
Now, there is something I also see, especially in the integration of services. It's good. It's the new normal. It's an approach that the Ministry of Health is adopting. But then, isn't this going to now raise something that had been buried, and that is stigma? That had been buried, and of course there's been a lot of advocacy in stigma, and we had reached a point where stigma was no longer a threat, and people had learned to live with this. But now, isn't the integration now going to stir it up, and then it causes also issues?
Yes, we already had some of the cases of stigma and discrimination. But as I just said, that as advocates in different organizations, we are doing monitoring alongside Ministry of Health. We are capturing these cases. We are capturing the root causes of stigma in the integration system. We are not going to change the fact that integration is here to stay. But how do we ensure that there is a quality of service? We are even more into the quality improvement. Actually, integration is mainly about quality improvement. It is a very strict area on quality improvement. And right now, as I speak, issues that were causing stigma were more into that word. Whenever you'd enter into the clinic, you would see maybe art clinic. It's no more. It's now chronic care. It is branded chronic care. Whether you're HIV positive or not HIV positive, chronic care means they're handling other diseases like hepatitis B. Chronic care means handling diseases like TB, pressure, diabetes. Those are the ones. No, cancer is not part of that area. So then we have the OPD, the outpatient department. So some hospitals have separated the two. They have done acute and chronic care clinic. Others have done OPD. They have left it as outpatient department, and then chronic care. So that outpatient, it handles all the other issues, then separated with the antenatal, because being that women who are expecting mothers, they also need special care. So also that department is left alone. It's called the antenatal department. But the antenatal is within the OPD. So at the end of the day, being that they removed that word at clinic, that was the first step, relabeling the clinics. And then when someone is receiving services, all of you enter. You don't need to know who is HIV positive and who is not. Because all of you, different people suffer from different non-communicable diseases. So you enter, they take all your books, and that was also another step that we took. We advocated that if it's a book, all of them should have books. Some facilities that have taken integration seriously have ensured that all clients have books. Then when they collect all the books, they read the names of the clients. You enter, some wants to see the doctor, they'll see the doctor. Then at the time of dispensing, now that's where also another issue is, dispensing the drugs. So, you know, most of the clinics used to have those windows,
Yes.
like that window, then you have to put the drugs on that window for the other person to receive it. So most people used to complain about such kind of issues. But right now, some hospitals where we have mentored, we encourage them to use a room so that you call the name of the person enters, they dispense from there, they enter with their bag, and the person's drugs don't have to be seen with by anyone. So those are some of the measures that we have taken to prevent stigma and discrimination. It's a process. Not all facilities have those systems. And that is why we are encouraging the frequent mentorships. And Ministry of Health is doing it. We are working alongside Ministry of Health to ensure that all facilities that have taken on integration, they should be at the same level. Of course, some facilities are doing a mixed model. A mixed model is they are still struggling with the integration. So they still have the art clinic, though they have already changed it to chronic care. But the people living with HIV still receive medicine the way they used to. They are still separate pharmacies. The ones for the people living with HIV and the general pharmacy. So they are still struggling with the integration because of the high volume of people that they receive, especially at the referrals, the regional referrals, where there are high volume population that go there. So some measures are being taken to prevent stigma and discrimination. And now this goes to the people out there living with HIV. You need to change your mindset. We are fighting that things are better. We have a quality service provision. And as human rights activists, we are fighting really hard. We are on the look and on the watch every single time. So some of those areas, the best practices I would really advise people living with HIV is, first of all, they have to adhere well on medication. Okay. We see our colleagues suffering from cancer. But they didn't have this special care, and they've never had this kind of special care. When you get to know that you have cancer, all you care about right now is medication. So we need to get out of the other comfort zone.
At all costs.
Yes, we had. When you have that medication, you're better than someone who doesn't have that medication. So we need to ensure that people living with HIV adhere well to achieve the undetectable viral load. Because when you're undetectable, you cannot transmit. So that is very important for people living with HIV. And also, we are fighting to ensure that the lifestyle of people living with HIV is better. Good nutrition. Right now, we are bringing back the discussion of nutrition. We realize that there are so many non-communicable diseases, the pressure, the diabetes. It is so high among people living with HIV. So we need to observe our nutrition. We need to adopt wellness styles. For example, doing exercises should be part of us. It's something I personally struggle with. Exercises is not easy. But at least we need to practice certain things that will keep us fit and okay. Yeah. And then with our legal environment, we are still pushing for a safer legal environment for people living with HIV. We know that some of these laws protect people living with HIV, but again, they harm us as people living with HIV. For example, the HIV/AIDS Control Act, we still have those clauses that we are struggling with. Clauses on mandatory testing for some entities, clauses on mandatory disclosure for HIV status. So those are clauses that we are still struggling with that actually can take people behind bars. If someone gets to know your status, they can use those clauses to take you behind bars. So we are still pushing for a better legal environment for people living with HIV. And especially now that it seems more threatening than before, when people realized that donor funding had gone down, everyone was so scared. Especially people in discordant relationships are struggling so much. But we have hope also for people in discordant relationships. We have the new lenacapavir coming up, the injection, the long-lasting injection coming up. So we advise those that are negative to also keep negative. We have all these interventions coming up, the innovations that science is giving us. We need to ensure we keep negative for those that are negative.
Now, with this advocacy, you're pushing the voices, especially at the implementation level. So you're bringing closer. I mean, you're working closely with the Ministry of Health and other stakeholders. What about the individuals living with HIV? Do you get sessions with them and talk to them and build their confidence, and also tell them of the new normal and encourage them to abide by the new normal?
That is where we are pledging media to give us spaces. I am glad that I'm usually on Akabozi every Friday when I'm available. I've gotten a slot recently there. So we need to encourage media to keep giving us space to air out these issues. Because the fact is, counseling and guidance is no more is no longer there in most of the health facilities. So we need media to continue giving us these slots. Secondly, yes, of course, we still have programs that we handle, but we may not reach the masses, some of the masses. The deeper masses that need this information, we may not reach them. And the only way to reach them is through media. Media does a great role in transferring information for informed decision making for people. So I continue to pledge media to keep giving us slots to give out this information, because this is the only counseling now platform that we are left with. Otherwise, some people have to pay for counseling elsewhere. Because most of the health facilities, for example, we are still struggling with the human resource in most of the facilities. There is no way a doctor flooded with clients to work on will start giving you counseling services. No. And even if, okay, the counselor is there, if there were like 3 or 4, now they'll reduce to 1 counselor. By the time that counselor completes all of you who have come for review,
It's overwhelming.
it's overwhelming. So we are also still pushing on that, in that angle of human resource in these facilities, to increase the human resource there. But even when we're advocating for that human resource, we don't know how long it's going to take for those changes to happen. So we continuously need to use media, even on our individual platforms. We need to continue transmitting these messages to our people.
Are the other preventive measures like PrEP and PEP untouched, or they are also suffering the same fate moving forward?
We have some good news that some donors are still supporting. They are going to support some of the PrEP and PEP, and some of the PEP and PrEP is still available in the country. And we are glad that some of the donors are going to put in some money. But we are still struggling with our government on regards to approval of the, for example, the new lenacapavir. Our government is being slow on that. And you know, when a donor, especially now, they don't give a damn. When you delay, they'll channel money elsewhere for people who are ready. So it's a voice over to our government. We really need to put some quick actions on ensuring that we approve the new drug, and it's taken on by most of the people that need it. Because when we keep lagging in our policy management and approvals, it affects us. And even that support that we keep complaining about, and yet we are not being active enough, it also gives us a bad image to some of the donors who would have supported more things. So it's my call to action to government to ensure that things are quickened, so that this approval comes out and this lenacapavir is rolled out to the people that need it.
Okay. Because when it was when news eventually came that it was there, they told us that it is quite expensive. One injection is costly, and so we realized that it was known for an average Ugandan, surely, because if someone cannot afford a meal, then how can they afford that amount of money? Because I think it was relatively about 700,000. And someone would say, how would someone afford the cost of this injection, however much they want to protect themselves? But so someone would really ask, when you talk about the government lagging in the policy, we thought that the fact that the AIDS Commission had showed signals, it was a sure deal, government to approve, and then we see how we move forward with it.
There are processes that are taken. Sometimes when they agree on the agreement, like when they come to agreement, of word agreement, there are also other actions that are taken. So they agreed by word of mouth and maybe signing papers somewhere, but the fact that the medicine is purchased into the country, that one hasn't yet been done. It's still in the processes, because they have to go and then check out the service providers, test that medicine and see. There's so many. I think people who do pharmacy, they know what it takes to test all that medication and be sure that it's actually effective for the purposes and not going to bring now issues to people here in Uganda. So yeah, you can't blame it for that, because there are certain processes that are supposed to be taken to ensure we have a safe drug in our country. And then for the issue of expense, everything starts like that. Even when you look at ARVs, it's been a journey. We started when there were no ARVs. Then some people started sending us, some of the advocates used to call it Muvumba. I think it was Muvumba for ARVs, like people who would die abroad. Some of our fellow Ugandans would go and collect door to door those the leftover ARVs, to bring them home to people that needed them. Some of the people that benefited from those drugs, we know them. We have Canon Gideon. We have so many others that have advocated, and we are public. And so it started like that. From the Muvumba now to sitting one-on-one with the donor and agreeing. Then now we started, some people started by purchasing those drugs very expensively. Then we got back to the negotiation of, our people cannot afford. Then our government started paying a certain percentage. Even to up to now, the government pays a certain percentage to the purchase. Though it hasn't been much, but now this time round, we are going to see the government is going to take on this responsibility highly. So it's a process. It starts by a high price and it goes down slowly by slowly under negotiations. So let's first have this drug. Then we go back to table to negotiate prices or even negotiate receiving it at a free cost. So it's a process, and Ugandans need to understand that everything starts like that.
As we wind up, what is your last message, especially to someone who is watching us? We have people who have taken this issue so personal and at heart that they are worried, not because they are living with HIV, but because they don't know the fate of the colleagues, the friends, the loved ones, and so they are worried. They don't know what next. Up to now, we have Ugandans who still have a lot of questions, asking, but can't government? Do we still have to cry because Trump has withdrawn the money? Can't government really take up this? If they can spend money in the other things that don't seem to be so fruitful to an average Ugandan. So there are very many questions people are having there, but what message of hope do you have for them?
Yeah, when we lose hope, we die first. That's one thing I need to advise people. We have to keep hopeful. If we were hopeful in COVID and we maneuvered, we shall still have to maneuver. If we are hopeful, the times of the File Bongole retires, that man who stood up among many, by the last Friday we were celebrating, commemorating his memorial. If we got hope from just one person, it means we still have to be hopeful. Science is at its best. We discuss issues now, or even of the cure. We have the science that is around the cure. So let's not lose hope. We need to stand still if we have to win. It's a battle that we have to win. And so, especially in this season where we are looking forward to voting members of parliament, I encourage people out there who are going to be voting to be very keen. Now we are in campaigns. Ask those hard questions to your aspiring members of parliament. Are they really going to push for our issues? Especially issues around health. They are very critical matters for every Ugandan out there. Even you is negative, you can never know tomorrow you can be positive. Or you can even get a more complicated issue. So it is very important that we be responsible by asking those hard questions to our aspirants out there, being hopeful, and choose the right leaders the potential leaders to do the right things for us. Otherwise, if we choose the wrong members of parliament, then our issues will not be addressed. Because at the same time, these are the people that advise the president where to channel money. And most of these people tend to be selfish. So we need to be very keen on the people that we are actually voting into leadership, so that they're pushing for the right cause. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and to your viewer, I think this message is really very, very important. It's the right time for you to know whether you are doing the right thing or voting for the right person. Ask them. Ask them, because at the end of the day, it's not the 10,000 or 20 that they give you that is going to advocate for you. Your voice, your vote counts. And how does it count? This is the time. Yes, press them, let them tell you, weigh and see their potential in advocating for your rights as a Ugandan. Otherwise, that's the only hope we have. When we vote, people will go and share money and then disappear and then only come back in the constituency to deceive us. Please, that might not work out for us. Well, it's been a pleasure having you from where we started from up to now. We've come to the end of issues at hand and the Arise family at large. And from the entire team, Liz has about to error again. Liz, SC, and Humuza, we wish you a blessed morning.
Issues at hand. This is Church of Uganda.